Hey everybody, welcome back to day 6 of what I've seen lately. This one will be rather short because not much to say about this one. It being a fairly short film and pretty straightforward as I'm getting set up here. Um, that film being Beau Travail, which was co-written and directed by Claire Denis, who you would know for as a director of High Life, I would say, being her most mainstream piece of work, that starring Robert Pattinson. It was backed up by A24. This film was released in 1999 and follows a French a group of French soldiers who are tasked with helping out uh, with helping out with certain dilemmas in Africa. Um, and one of the sergeants uh, is having a desire that is being blossomed, and a new recruit comes into the picture, and that new recruit uh, creates a jealousy within him, um, and there's tension that starts to brood, and ultimately it becomes a a uh, a war of sorts um, for uh, a certain kind of attention. Because ultimately, is what the film is about. Is about the desire for attention, and the film flirts and suggests about that of homosexuality, and I mean, it's just like heavy emphasis on the male testosterone and just the primal urges. It's filmed very intently, like the way that this film is predominantly a male cast, and it's filmed intently, and like they're all acting on an animalistic like behavior. I mean, there's no better indication of that than the men hugging each other like so intensely and like a training exercise, and the like meditative, like sequences. It showcases their not only their aimlessness, but in also to a certain measure their their uh, their desire for connection and for sexual or for some sort of intimacy. Because there is a sexual nature to the film, but it's very subtle. And the film itself, for the most part, operates on that subtle nature, and it's completely trusting in its viewer. It's not like subtle just for the sake of being subtle, or it feels subtle um, for some artistry. It feels very appropriate, and it feels very telling. Same with its aesthetics. I think it's visually very pleasing to look at, and I love the actual aura of it. It's exploring a state of being more so than analyzing its themes. It's just exploring the psychology, the more putting yourself in that state of that mindset. How would you feel if you were out in these, basically in the middle of nowhere, and having these desires take forge, and and again being so isolated. You seek a greater purpose. You seek that sense of belonging, which is again what the film is ultimately about. And where the film kind of starts to, but before I get to that, actually, the the filmmaker that it reminded me the most of, oddly enough, was Audrey. God, I forgot his last name. Taryaski. I think that's how you say his last name. He's the guy who did Solaris, Mirror, as well as Ivan's Childhood. The filmmaking reminded me a lot of that, where it's not heavy on the dialogue, and there's a it's a it possesses a certain drive tonally that reminded me of Audrey's work. It's a film that relies more on its atmosphere than of its characterizations and its developments, which to a certain extent is what kind of created a certain detachment for me, or at least a thin attachment at best, because you get a film that is as ultimately spliced between social commentary and narrative threads. They're trying to blend these two elements together, with obviously addressing like the struggles within Africa and then within that African community, and then showing at times the environment that the soldiers occupy within Africa. Um, at points like that, it feels that the developments that are suggested are kind of sidelined and put in the background, and a lot of those elements feel like that they are pushed to the background at least until halfway through, where they start to get a little bit more of a representation. Um, and the um, the motivation is not as present until, like I said, halfway through. As there is a desire to showcase more of its environment at times, rather than the people itself, or at least the mental space that it wishes to represent. Um, but I think that the overall craftsmanship, I think, is unique. I think that I think that it's tonally interesting. I very much appreciate the trust that it possesses. It's not a film that is all too knowing. It's a film that kind of peels the layers, and I mean, you pick up on it fairly early, but it's not where it's not where it becomes boring. It's still sitting in that subtlety, and it's still sitting within that certain kind of nature, and it works to its benefit. It's not like it's just like, oh, okay, it's so clear. Um, so I think that there are elements to it that worked well for me, but I wish that there was more of an attention to its characterizations and more of attention to its developments, because it's a film mostly about ideas, and more uh, about loneliness, really, at the center of it. Um, and though I appreciated those depictions, I do think, though, that there is room for characterizations and certain developments, especially because there's tension that was being developed between two characters, and I just there wasn't much of a motivation for that to exist, because there was no sense of character. It was just two people, so I think it is a bit thin at times, but in terms of its atmosphere, in terms of its aesthetics, in terms of its um, overall purpose and craftsmanship, I think that it does. Um, I think that it does become at times more thicker, but and at other times a little bit thin. So so I think that it's good, but I think that there is room uh, for for more narrative and less of a commentary, and less of a showcase of themes. I would have liked to have known the characters a little bit more. Um, so, um, but as a film about ideas, I think that it works fairly well. So, so those are my thoughts on Beau Travail. I thought it was good. But you guys want to know your thoughts on A Beau Travail. If you guys have seen it, let me know in the comment section below. And that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And tomorrow we got one more film, and this one will be interesting. We'll see. So yeah, that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for the last video. Bye.